Before we get started, I want to acknowledge former Mayor of Sugarland, Mayor Zimmerman, being here today. Thank you for attending. We're going to go ahead and start with citizen comments. Do we have anyone signed up to speak? Thank you. The purpose of citizen comment is to give all interested citizens the right to express their views. Everyone desiring to speak should have either signed the appropriate list in the foyer or emailed the city clerk prior to the posted time of this meeting. Each citizen shall give his or her name in order to provide a proper record of these comments. The rules allow each person 1 minute to speak. A citizen may pass his or her time to another person who has requested to address council. However, no citizen remarks shall exceed 3 minutes in total. Either the 1 minute or the 3 minute limit may be extended by a majority vote of council. I encourage everyone to be as brief and to the point as possible. Please keep in mind, council cannot discuss or deliberate on items for which public notice has not been given on the agenda. We're going to start with Crystal Sarmiento. Sarmiento. I was close. No, I wouldn't do you like that. Please state your address for point of record.
Thank you. Yes, 6531 Sam Rayburn, Manville, Texas, 77578. Go. Okay. Friends, I just wanted to introduce myself to those who haven't met me yet. My name is Crystal de Leon Sarmiento, and I am your candidate for Congress, conservative, Christian, and Republican, daughter of an illegal immigrant who raised me as a single father in the southwest side of Houston for over 10 years, and the daughter of a 50 plus year educator. And so I just wanted to come and say hello, and I'm also a council member in Manville, and you may have seen some videos online that I've been sharing because I would love for everyone to get to know me, and I would love to get to know you. So that's it, short and brief, to the point. Thank you guys for what you're doing. God bless.
Thank you. Next, we have Aiden Ramirez, and he is having time ceded to him from Ace Ellis and David Isaac. So you're going to have a total of 3 minutes. Please state your address for record.
12110 Meandering Stream Drive. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Aiden Ramirez. I'm a student at Goose Creek Memorial. Most of you are aware of the murder that happened at Sterling prior to Christmas break. Most of you are parents, teachers, aunts, and uncles, and we ask for your support of us for Students for Safe Schools, formerly known as Baytown Student Safety Committee. Understanding how the council works, we know you work separate from the school board, and we ask for your support in being that. We want to be a voice for the future of students in Baytown. Our main concern is being a part of the community for students because we all believe that students don't have a voice. We want to help them in any way we can, whether that's mental health. Our main goal is to have students continue to stay in Baytown, to be a part of Baytown, to grow in Baytown. We believe that when the city helps students, the students want to help the city. And we just ask for your support in that. And I do want to thank some of the council members and the chief for being at our meeting last week. And that's it. We just ask for everyone's support in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Donnie Gregory, DRG.
Good evening. I'm Donnie Gregory. I live at 5121 Archway Court in LaPorte. I'm a lifelong Baytown resident. I'm a fourth generation Baytonian. I know we got a lot of serious issues going on in Baytown, but I'm just here to talk about sports. Hey, I'm a baseball coach. I own and operate BBA Baseball LLC. We've been in Baytown for 15 years. We've put 178 local kids into college. Also run the Bay Area Summer Collegiate League, where we bring college baseball players into town during the summer, and we put them in host housing, and we bring scouts out to look at them to either get to a bigger school or maybe transfer to a different school. So I just wanted to speak on behalf of the youth sports venue that we have coming up, and that's kind of a big topic in the area. And I get it. I'm all about select baseball. I know that's not for some people, but for others it is, and I'm on that side that is.
Hold on one second. Can we get a motion to extend this time?
Did I run out of time?
Yeah.
Oh.
Second.
That was a quick 3 minutes. I'll come
It-
back.
It's 1 minute, but we can extend your time.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I appreciate it.
that's what we're voting on now.
Okay.
So, how long?
1 minute?
Two.
Do you need
I
a minute?
think give him 2 minutes. Okay, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. So I brought a college coach with me tonight, pitching coach, recruiting coordinator from Texas Southern University, Happy Macon. Where we're located here in Baytown, it's very, we're in a hotbed of talent around here. There's a lot of money we can bring into this town from the standpoint of holding tournaments, bringing in college showcases. This sport is growing and growing and growing. They got huge facilities in Melissa, Texas, and Beaumont, and Houston, Tomball. We're missing a boat as a city, if we're not taking advantage of that, because, man, we got 4 high schools right here in this town, 5 if you count Baytown Christian. We're right next to, and I'm counting Barbers Hill as part of that. We're right next to Crosby, Clear Lake, Deer Park. There's so much around here that we can use this town for, and right now all these other kids are going outside, and we got so many families and players playing ball here. They're all taking their money, staying in hotels, spending their money in restaurants, shops, and all that, and other places, when we can be doing that right here in Baytown. I've been a part of it. It's growing. It's not going anywhere. It's going to continue to explode. It's a multi-million-dollar industry. It'd be great if Baytown could get on top of that. I think that could lead into something, bringing Lee College baseball back. Again, we're too big of a town not to have our own baseball college when we got a college here. So, I'm going to keep coming back and bugging you guys about it, because it's very important to me. I know it's very important to a lot of people in this town. So I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to all y'all, and thank you very much.
Thank you. There being no one else desiring to speak, this now concludes the citizen comment portion of the agenda. We are going to take 4B and 4C out of order. We're going to take them together and move them up. Consider a resolution authorizing the retirement and transfer of police service dog K9 Enzo to his handler, Officer Cody Dodson, pursuant of Texas Government Code Chapter 614, Subchapter L, and consider a resolution authorizing the retirement and transfer of police service dog K9 Big to his handler, Officer Jeff Spencer, pursuant to Texas Government Code Chapter 614, Subchapter L. Chief Stringer.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Thank you very much for your time. Officer Spencer, would you and your partner step up here for just a moment? Officer Dodson and his longtime canine partner Enzo were unable to be here this evening, but this is Officer Spencer and Canine Big. They've worked together for quite a while. They've been incredibly impactful in our efforts to protect and serve the citizens and the visitors to the city of Baytown. Canine Big and Canine Enzo have both faithfully and honorably served the city of Baytown and the Baytown Police Department as police service dogs, assisting in law enforcement operations, officer safety, apprehension of suspects, detection work, and protection of the public. And due to their age, health, and their length of service, both Canine Big and Enzo are no longer suitable for continued active duty as law enforcement animals and are deemed, and have been deemed inappropriate or appropriate for retirement by the Baytown Police Department. Pursuant to Texas Government Code, Chapter 614, Subchapter L, the governing body of a political subdivision may enter into a contract for the transfer of a retired law enforcement animal to an eligible transferee. Officer Spencer and Officer Dodson, as the assigned handlers of K9 Big and Enzo, have demonstrated the appropriate care, responsibility, and dedication to the well-being of their canines throughout their service, and they are the preferred and eligible transferees under Texas law. And again, I would just like to point out that they have been incredibly impactful in making some of the cases that we've made, whether they've been large narcotic seizures or they've been significant criminal apprehensions. They have served us well, and they've been an incredibly active unit. Officer Spencer, thank you for all you've done. I've watched you. You're professional. I've seen your cases, and the commendations that have come up through your chain of command, and you have every reason in the world to be proud. And I hope that K9 Big has a long and enjoyable retirement with you. So, looks like he's already beginning to enjoy it. So.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Y'all want to go down and get a picture?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Can
have to
we
stop
make a
me.
quick, we can vote on the motion and then,
Good idea.
yeah.
We
called
weren't
procedures.
waiting on you to get coffee. All in favor?
We gotta
Well,
have
I need a motion. I'm sorry, I need a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
quick comment,
motion
Mayor.
carries.
Officer Spencer and to the other Officer Dodson, I appreciate your continued support and effort with the dogs. I mean, German Shepherds are pretty active animals in the limelight, but again, a well-trained animal like that, he's going to have a good life, and that's a major commitment, and I salute you for that effort. I really do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Frank, your next one. Yeah, follow that one. I'll kiss you next month, Frank. That's great.
2A,
Good job.
consider an ordinance amending Chapter 86 Solid Waste Article 4 Private Collection Vehicles for the Code of Ordinances, Baytown, Texas, to revise the definition as commercial solid waste collection and implement changes to the Code of Ordinances. Mr. Frank Semino.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. This item was discussed at the work session in November. We reviewed several proposed changes to the solid waste franchise fee ordinance. I have a summary of the changes listed in the table here. The major changes are to increase the permit fee and add separate permits for the containers and vehicles. We are adjusting the reporting frequency and increasing the audit ability of the city to ensure higher compliance. We're also looking to ensure that sales taxes related to these services are remitted to Baytown. We reviewed the implementation timeline at the work session. We're striving for complete implementation by April of this year. That's all I have. Let me know if you have any questions, and staff recommends approval.
questions or comments? Good deal. I need a motion.
I had a
Oh.
question, and I believe, Jay, you responded and answered in our work session when we discussed this. I wanted to make sure that we were looking at both sides of this issue, not only the transporters, but also the businesses, to ensure that the business is required to have a licensed or franchised operator. And then if you're not franchised and you're providing
Right.
business, there's impact there as well.
Yes, so part of our audit, we would go to the businesses and look at their containers, and if they're not permitted, we would approach that business and, you know.
So there are repercussions if a
they are-
business
they are.
uses a
Well,
non-authorized.
not to the business, but whoever owns that dumpster would be fined at that point for having a container that is not permitted.
But that's for the.
So we don't have any fines for the businesses. That the fines are for the operator.
Operator.
And owner of the container.
Okay.
I misunderstood that, Mr. Oyster. I thought it was for.
Okay. And I'm gonna support.
Motion in the ordinance.
I'm gonna support this,
If
but I
I'm
want us to look
reading
at
that
what it would take
correctly.
to have an impact on the businesses.
Is that correct, Scott?
Yes, Council, if you go to Section 3, which would be Chapter 86, Article 4, Division 2.
Page 5.
Page 5. It does make unlawful for any person to hire, retain, let, use, contract with, engage, or otherwise appoint any person who does not have a valid waste collection permit issued by the city. And then also further down, it makes it illegal for a person to fail to display a current city decal.
So there is an impact on this. Okay, then I'm good. Then Mayor, I'll make a motion if you're ready.
Let's go.
I make a motion that we approve item 2A.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Semino.
Thanks, Frank.
B, consider an ordinance authorizing the city of Baytown to enter into an agreement with Barker Rinker CCAT Architecture PC for architectural services related to the ExxonMobil Baytown Event Center and Sterling Municipal Library renovation. Mr. Gary. Oh,
Yeah, I'm throwing a curveball here to follow the guys' baseball thing. Mayor and Council, I have received. Is this up already? I have received so many questions on the Baytown Event Center, the ExxonMobil Baytown Event Center, that I felt it be appropriate to run through a bunch of information to help the council, to help the citizens, to talk about how this has not been done in a vacuum, how this has been public, how this has been talked about, how citizens have been involved. I want to talk about everything that I'm legally allowed to talk about. Okay? Matt, I will put out things. David, I will put out things. I thought there'd be other people here that I'd get a chance to say hello to, but I'll talk about things that have been rumored. I will talk about things that have been publicly released. I will go through the entire timeline in an effort to put everything out there that I possibly can. This is in my perception, and from council's perception of working on this, a positive thing for Baytown. It's discouraging that it's marred by negative aspects and negativity constantly over the past 3 years, and the crazy thing is what I hope or what I believe will happen is when I get done, it'll be like, hey, how come you didn't say that at the very beginning? Well, a lot of it I couldn't say at the very beginning. And it's easier to tell a story after it's already complete, right? So I'm going to walk through it. If there are questions, please ask me. I know that y'all hear a lot from your citizens, and I'm hoping this answers a lot of the questions that are out there. And with that, I'll jump into it. So I'm told that I love my spreadsheets too much and that I word dump things on my emails and spreadsheets. And so I was given a better way to present things. So I'm going to break this down into 3 categories: how it involves the citizens, how it involves the money, and a history of the actual project and everything that the council, the staff, and others, including citizens, have been working on and will be working on. When I'm done, this does lead up to adopting the design architects for council. So it's all part of that piece. I'll be followed by staff and the consultant. So the biggest thing that I get and that you all have received is, how come you haven't involved the citizens? And I'm here to show everybody that we have. In 2018 or 17, when all this was being put together, you had the Baytown Recreation Center feasibility study. This was a comprehensive group of citizens around the city of Baytown, and their action plan, which was adopted by council, was to have a recreation center. In 2021, those goals and action plans that came from that feasibility study were then put into the adopted 2021 Parks, Recreation, Trails, and Open Space Master Plan. There was a community survey and other pieces that involved the citizens to put this together. Again, in this book that was adopted by council at a public hearing, talked about a recreation center and putting things for the community to go be involved in. In 2022, the city of Baytown adopted a strategic plan. All of these things are online, all of these things are public. This was heavily involved with citizens around Baytown, putting things together, talking about what they want. I'm not going to go through all of it, but I did highlight on the presentation the public outreach that was involved. And inside the plan, when you get a chance, if you go to the key initiatives and what success looks like, you can go to page. The first one is on page 12 under economic prosperity, and I'll just read one. Entertainment opportunities to residents, namely young families. If I go on, pursue private development and additional commercial growth in South Baytown. If I move on in the strategic plan, I go to page 15 that has 5 actual action plans that were meeting with Project Vector or MBAC. Continue to invest in and maintain the high quality and number of existing parks and recreational amenities throughout the city while addressing any apparent inequities. Maintain and expand properties to enable organized sports such as soccer, football, disc golf, pickleball, and more. Continue to partner with Goose Creek ISD in leveraging the Bicentennial Park Amphitheater for public events and entertainment. Explore possibilities regarding the future addition of recreational complexes throughout the city. The pieces go on, but the point here is to show that this has been a work in progress for many, many years. And I know for some that may say, hey, that's 2018. That's so out of, this is pretty quick for government. This is, I mean, I know that seems like a joke, but it's not. I mean, this is pretty quick for government because it does take time to organize pieces to get together and put a plan in place where people can be involved on working through things. In 2023, one thing I want to highlight with this first piece here, these things are the idea, right? It's nothing that's actually put on the ground. This is the idea of what it can be, the conceptual piece to start playing with the vision. And so once you get that vision in place, you start doing research and we put out information that builds up to that. We have public outreach through council meetings, through media that's posted to the community, on social media as well. That's been happening from 2023 to 2025. Has it been every month? Has it been every 2 months? No, it hasn't. because while you're doing a lot of research, there's not a lot to put out. But I will tell you, the first thing went out in April of 2023 about what Project Vector was. And that idea transformed into multiple ideas, and I'll cover that here in a minute, which convoluted some of the process while we were working on it. But I was like, I didn't do that. But it has been something that has been put out as much as we possibly can put out, and has provided the opportunity up here for citizens to speak in the manner that we have for the time being. And don't forget all the listening sessions and everything else that's been available for the citizens to talk about these things should that want to be discussed. And then when you get down into the public engagement piece of the actual concrete thing, that is going to happen. That's what Mr. Gary will talk about here shortly. Adopting this architect and design firm is setting in place the public engagement for the citizens. Taking that vision from council's ideas and beliefs of what we think it should be, and start reaching out to what the left and right boundaries of, hey, what can we practically build within the financial resources that we have to build something, and talk to the citizens and see what you say so the council can make an ultimate decision when all that is said and done. A lot of this is hung up on the money, and I understand that. I'm not trying to act like it's not a big deal. But there's three things that play a role into what set up the entirety of the $75 million. The first thing is the state of Texas. The state of Texas has been attacking, through policy, cities around the state for many, many years. One thing that they have been working on is trying to limit the city's ETJ. And furthermore, to try to take away the ETJ in its entirety. In doing that, it threatens the livelihood of Baytonians, because what pays the majority of the revenue for this city is in the city's ETJ. It is not the houses, it is not the businesses that are in the city of Baytown. It is everything that's in the ETJ.
Can you define ETJ for folks that might not know what that is? Thank you.
So you have two pieces. You have the big bubble of the city of Baytown. That's the actual. So if anybody gets on Google right now and you pull up the city of Baytown as a Google map, you will see a shaded area of Baytown. You will also see donut holes in that shaded area that cover Baytown. And those donut holes are areas that are unincorporated parts of Baytown. They belong to the county. The city does not provide any services to those areas. Those, just very easily to represent, are around the airport. Most of that is the county and not part of the city, so you'll see a big bubble or donut hole right there. Outside of like city of Baytown proper, which would go up to maybe Wallaceville Road, out to just a little bit past 446 on the east side, that's just the city where people pay city taxes. And then the city ETJ, the extraterritorial jurisdiction, goes all the way out, almost past Mont Bellevue, and it goes all the way out to Beach City. And so where you see all those giant warehouses and where you see all the industry partners that we have that pay the city's bills, those are actually in the city, in the county. And so what the state was doing was saying, hey, we're working slowly to say that those contracts that you have with IDAs are going to go away. Our revenue is $140 million a year. 60 plus million of that is IDAs through the stuff that comes from industry. So if you take away $60 million all of a sudden, you are then saying, I have to compensate that by either reducing services drastically. Just FYI, the $60 million pays for all police and fire. That's all. That $60 million pays for two departments, police and fire. And so we would have to raise taxes probably up to $2 from 69 cents that we're at to be able to pay for that $60 million. And so it was, how can we be strategic about what we are doing in order to protect the livelihood of what is paying the revenue for the city of Baytown. We had previously did it with Enterprise, and we said, hey, that's a good model. Let's go approach Exxon and see if we can do a 212 and retain them in the city of Baytown for another 30 years. Another point that we have to look at is what the state was also doing with taxes and the philosophy that the government is working on with taxes based on what the citizens are asking for. The citizens have been asking for lower taxes in the city of Baytown. We have lowered the tax rate from north of 80 cents down to 69 cents in just a few years. Okay? That is a reduction of over $13 million a year in revenue to the city of Baytown with that reduction. What that has done inadvertently is actually put more of the burden on the homeowner, because you reduce the money that was coming from industry and you put more of the burden on the homeowner to pay more fees, to pay higher water bills, because the industry was subsidizing your water bills. And so with those two things at play, we had to work with industry to say, hey, what can we do right now to really protect this? And we worked with Exxon on a 30-year agreement. And then it came to the conversation about, you have $75 million. Why are you spending this extra $75 million? It's not extra, okay? I'm not trying to misstate that. I'm not trying to lead anybody down a wrong path. It's not extra. It is part of the property tax that is reimbursed to them through the agreement, okay? However, the only way for us to secure proper investment into the city of Baytown was to provide a competitive tax agreement, which is the 212, and it secured $5 billion into our facility at Baytown. This is something that the council was aware of when we were going through these strategy discussions back in 2022. In fact, there are members up here who were very against spending the $75 million on another project in the city of Baytown. However, after we talked through those pieces of how it's not really the $75 million for a project, and this is what's very, very important for everybody to understand. Without the 212, you don't have the $75 million, okay? It's not as if we just got rid of the 212, we would then automatically have the $75 million, and we could go spend that $75 million on something else. That's not how this works. We made an agreement with Exxon that if they put $5 billion on the ground, we will take a $75 million upfront payment and build a facility that serves the community. That was the agreement. But if we didn't do that 212 agreement, we wouldn't have $75 million that's being talked about at all. We also wouldn't have the $5 billion additional dollars that's been committed to the city of Baytown for additional jobs. We wouldn't have the additional $13 billion of subsidiary pieces that are being added on the east side of Baytown in Cedarport. The $13 billion of interest in additional job creation or industry that's supporting what Exxon is doing on the east side of Baytown. This agreement was a catalyst to spur additional growth and to spur longevity with Exxon and other pieces staying in the city of Baytown. I'm not sure if people are paying attention to what's happening too in the oil industry, but it is changing. It is changing. Yes, sir.
So to kind of get you that oil industry, just kind of what my firm and what we do, we are the largest rebar facility manufacturer in the United States. We're a $1 billion industry. And of our 3 plants here between Houston and Baton Rouge, 1/3 of our material goes to the LNG plant in Sulphur, Louisiana, because of a 212 agreement in Louisiana. Corpus Christi has a $10 billion investment from Exxon that they put in. We all know of people who are driving to Sulphur, Louisiana to go work at that LNG because of that. These are big dollars that they're wanting to put in and improve.
I mean, I don't know if people are aware, but the CP Chem expansion did not happen at one of the largest plants that they have, which is right here. It happened in Orange. They transferred that to Orange because it had a better tax incentive program to expand the CP Chem piece. Right? I mean, that type of stuff, I know people here know people that are impacted by the way oil is shifting, the oil industry is shifting. We became the single best target for Exxon to place new stuff here or in their conglomerate. What happened since we passed this is more and more announcements of things coming in here. LyondellBasell, what happened? Does anybody know what happened to LyondellBasell with their refinery? What happened? Right. How many other stories can we say the same thing? What's happening with Exxon? They've announced their stuff that they're shifting how they're working, right? That's been publicly announced on refining. What's that? Right. Things are shifting, but because we are strategically placed with this 212 agreement, we are first consideration for the city of Baytown to secure the long-term peace. What we were seeing is that Exxon's piece before this 212 agreement was staying at a constant $20 million payment. And it was possibly decreasing. So instead of having this shift or just stay here, we took this agreement because it benefited both parties. But part of that agreement was that you have to build a facility for community good. And I forget how it's named. I think Brant will say the actual name here in a minute on what it is called in the document. But this was a long-term look for the city of Baytown to secure long-term jobs here, and part of that agreement came with building a facility. So when we did this agreement in 2012, the original intent when it started was a Green Initiative Museum. 2022, sorry. In 2022, the 212 agreement. The 2022-212 agreement started as a Green Initiative Museum is what Exxon was negotiating for. And if you look back at what I just said on the citizen input of what it had, the mayor at the time was in the negotiations with Exxon and shifted that to an economic development piece, which was later brought back to the council. And the council had some hemming and hawing about, okay, where are we at? But ultimately, the council at the time decided on moving forward with an economic development project. And that's how it was re-strategized in the negotiation of the 212. And the focus at that point was on what I just talked about, on youth sports or a recreation facility that can be used for the city for programming. So that kicked things off. That was December of 2022 when that was adopted. In 2023, there were a plethora of things happening. And I don't know the word to use. I'm going to say serendipitous, but I don't know the word. In 2023, as soon as we started this, we were approached by multiple professional teams to look at using this $75 million to build an arena or to complement what they're trying to do, still meeting what we were trying to do with our youth sports or community center or programming, still having that intent on the side, but tag teaming to what the professional sports were trying to do in the city of Baytown. In 2023, there was a ton of research. There was the staff was walking around. The council went to look at some things. We looked at many different venues to see what was happening with other sports-driven stuff in the area. One of them was a hockey team. I know that a citizen posted about a hockey team being here. That was discussed. Did it have any real legs? No, it didn't have any real legs, but it was discussed. How the citizen knew, I have no idea, but it was discussed. It is now the Salt Lake City Mammoths that are playing out there. It was an expansion team, and we got thumped by a person that may or may not own a basketball team when we were trying to look at that, and that stopped that. We had other professional expansion teams that we went out to California with. I know that it's the worst kept secret in Baytown of us trying to go. I have an NDA. I can't talk about who that is, so I can't go any further with that. But we did have multiple meetings with very large corporations on bringing a professional football team here and talk and see what we can do. And that ultimately fell through because they did not want to put the money necessary into this. The council made it very clear when all this started that this was not to be something where we are losing money, that we are not subsidizing. And so everything that we were looking at had to be something that was going to be making money. Okay? That's where it evolved more into how can this other professional team or youth sports help drive a revenue piece to help compensate for some of the pieces that are happening to support the community programming piece. At the same time, another professional team came to talk to us. We had two professional teams competing roughly at the same time, and it convoluted the conversation quite a bit. It also convoluted the conversation on where it should be. We had the north side that was being discussed, and we had the south side that was being discussed. Both of those had financially driven challenges and environmental driven challenges that when the council had to look at the hardships that come with those, we couldn't justify paying more money to put those things up there because all of it was extremely expensive and would exceed the $75 million to be able to put those in place on both locations. Moving into 2024, the first team went away. The second team kind of continued a little bit. And we had a feasibility study finished up at that point. The feasibility study talked about 3 different avenues. One's like an arena, one was like a youth sports program, and one was another like mini venue or something like that. And the arena and the mini venue showed that they were going to lose considerable money. But the hopes were that you would have economic development around this thing that would compensate for that. The council did not want to take the risk at the time and say, hey, we want to subsidize this more. No, y'all didn't say that. Y'all said absolutely not. We don't want to take any more risks. We have other challenges that are happening, especially around this time, and we don't want to take on greater risks than we need.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Going back to the location, because that's what I'm getting questions on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I was not on council to where I can give out.
Yes, sir.
I don't want anyone to say that I gave misinformation.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask it here.
Okay.
You said that there were environmental reasons.
Yes, sir.
For the north and the south side. Was it the north or the south side?
Both.
That both had environmental reasons.
Yes, sir.
And to clarify, hold on, it was going to take more money to go in on the north side and the south side.
That is correct.
And is that because of environmental reasons?
Partially, yes, sir.
Partially, okay. What were the other things that would have raised the price on that?
Financial, there are multiple pieces on the north side. So there were 2 locations that were looked at on the north side that were both financially not feasible to do. One location had a lot of infill that needed to happen, and I believe a ballpark around 20 million bucks on infill just to put the dirt work in to get the piece where it needed to be. The other one was accompanying a private party. There were price differences on agreement, and that ultimately would have been north of 10 million, Brant? North of 10 million or around 10 million, 9 or 10 million, I believe. More than that? Okay. More than $10 million just to purchase the land up there. And then you would have had to do a second private or a public-private partnership with that individual, along with the public-private partnership for MBEC itself. And so it'd be very, very convoluted to do that, and the council at the time did not think that that was an appropriate move.
So multiple public-private partnerships.
Yes, sir.
Got you.
And that was the north side.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lot just to say that we didn't own the land and we owned this land. I just, like, I know all those other things play in a matter, but
Just so that can you.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, I just wanted to be very clear that we didn't own the land on the north side or the south side, the original,
Correct.
and I don't know how much we can talk about. And where the location has been announced now, the big difference is we own the land. So that removes all that environmental and all that other stuff was still a factor, but it removes purchasing of land.
Correct.
That's a huge cost.
And that,
So
Savings.
I kind of remember this. That we're looking at about 50 acres, and I remember we were talking about it. I don't think we talked about it in council, but that's kind of, it's 50 acres need to be raised 10 feet because it's in a 100-year floodplain.
that's correct.
And the 20 million he's coming with, that was a number I had given him, I remember back then. That was just for dirt. That was not for equipment. That was not for the contractor to put it. That was just for the material alone was 20 million. And that's why I was like, that was a major cost to put it on the north side.
So in 2020, as we continue in 2024, you know, most of 2024 was geared around the south side, the far south side, and it had extreme environmental concerns with wellheads and railroad tracks and other things that just made it just not feasible to move forward, along with underground infrastructure that wasn't in place that would have upped the cost drastically. And the private party that was working with us also did not want to put in money. Everybody looked at the $75 million as the checkbook. And I think council was unanimous at the time when we were looking at the south side because it seemed like a wonderful location to help things go. And what citizens may not understand is that we spent a lot of time doing research in phase one, and you can be very optimistic where things are going, and then you get these reports and they shoot you in the foot after you spend all this time and dedication to going towards a thing, and you get that report back and you're like, hey, guess what? Either we can spend a lot more money or we're going to pivot. And this is why things have continued to be prolonged at this point, because we've had to pivot a few times based on things that continue to come back on areas that were chosen that seemed right according to the feasibility study. Because the feasibility study said, hey, look at these places, and we did. And then it turned out that it was just financially not feasible to put those in play. Yes, sir.
So, was there a feasibility study done on this current location?
There was not a feasibility study on this current
So
location.
we have no feasibility study on this current location?
No, sir.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So the current location was chosen in 2025. And in 2025, where this played out is one that we own the land. Okay? So we immediately saved more than $10 million going to this location. In addition to that, I believe the council was unanimous on choosing this location because it was the effort and a philosophical stance to start rebuilding the south side according to the strategic plan of what I just talked about as well. And so there was a conversation around we need to put more effort on the south side because the north side is happening organically. And this was a strategic decision based on what we had at the time to help redevelop this portion of town. And we were all working together and it's continued to move forward, and it looks like it's going to be a very good thing because the city has put numerous dollars into Texas Avenue growing, and that's been part of what the citizens have been asking for, is redeveloping this area. It's turned into a very good partnership with an additional good partnership with Lee College on their interlocal agreement, which we had the public meetings on to talk about with them, on how this can be utilized by them and how we can work together. It's turned into additional relationships with Goose Creek ISD on what can happen with the things that they have. It works well with the Market Street revitalization, that's a rehabilitation that's going to be happening over there. It all played very well into a plan that council had adopted numerous times of fitting, of moving this portion of the town into a direction where there is an entertainment area, so to speak. And it played well with other assets the city had already put money into. And I do want to point out, one of the other questions, and the reason I have this photo up here is, how come you're going to put something in a floodplain? Well, we put this out earlier in 2025. This is a public document that's been put out already. This shows you that there are areas that are in the floodplain, but the buildable area that is not impacted by the floodplain, we can put the center there and not have to worry about extensive mitigation at the same time. And so these concerns that are being talked about, I feel they've been addressed numerous times, and I'm hoping that consolidating it like this really helps the people understand that we do hear y'all, and we are talking about these things. And so now the next step that's up there is what's coming after me to talk about the public engagement that's going to be happening. And this is where council will give a vision, a continued vision, and the citizens will start giving their input.
Jason, before we move to that, Mayor, comment.
Go ahead.
So we've done the 75 million. We've arranged that through the 212. But aside from that, Exxon is still paying an annual.
That's correct. They're still paying their original 20 plus million.
Agreement with us, which is roughly 20 million that
Yes.
we get every year.
Yes, ma'am.
That goes to the general fund.
That's correct.
So it's not like they gave us the 75 million and that's it. They're still contributing an amount to the general fund, aside from all of their other community contributions.
That's correct.
Smell.
It is a relief that you're out here saying all of this, but I just want to thank the council that's up here because y'all have been there, Mayor, I know for most of it, but everyone else has been there for the whole ride. And I want to bring up something that you didn't say just because it also needs to be talked about. Most of the questions that I've received from the public have been about location. That's been the new thing once we move past the 75 million in the IDA. And I can say that one of the first things that was discussed was a traffic study. Mm-hmm. And the traffic study did not support the original south side location. And what I mean by that is it said there'd be more traffic if you were near I-10. A lot of the discussion, that's been 3 years ago, that surrounded that. Council members up here had great points about that. And I mean, it didn't take a rocket scientist. I-10 had more traffic. However, here we are 3 years later, and I don't know if y'all have been paying attention, but San Jacinto Bridge has had some major issues with traffic, and it's now fixing to go into a long-term construction period. All of my friends on the east side of town are dealing with some horrible situations almost daily coming from the Trinity River Bridge over. And so now I-10 is seeing some things that I don't think we would have been able to see in the feasibility study. And if you've driven 146 North coming over the Fred Hartman Bridge towards Baytown, there's an exit at Texas Avenue that would go to this property. I agree, that area needs some help. Hopefully this would be a catalyst to make it a little bit more appeasing. The other thing is that you could stay on that 146 business and also exit Decker and then head south on Decker, which will then have the new market revitalization. So I just want to address that. I think that all of us know that originally when we looked at that traffic study, it made more sense on I-10 just looking at that, the accessibility. But the last piece to that is you're all aware of Garth Road's long-term, up to 7 years right now. The expansion of that is it's already started, and it's going to be moving. But there's a lot of things. Baytown over the years has been creating these hubs. That's our shopping district. This side is the educational corridor. It is the historic side. It is the arts and entertainment district. That's what the citizens have been working towards with that strategic plan. So although I definitely think there needs to be more input, although I completely understand y'all need to be aware now that we can talk more openly about it, at the end of the day, this is supposed to be the side of town that it belongs on, philosophically.
And that was the conversation the council did have on, there was no feasibility study done down here. But there was a conversation with the council that it was a deliberate decision to move it down here in an effort to grow this area with or without a feasibility study. And it was deliberate because of the Arts and Entertainment District and piece that we own it as well. So I'm ending with this. This was put out a few months ago, I believe in August maybe. Is this August? Huh? Okay, around that time. This is conceptual, so this is not set in stone. And the important thing here is to show that it fits, but also to highlight that it does incorporate the library. When we started this piece, we had professional teams looking at giant arenas, had conversations about ESPN broadcasting systems being put in the arena, like gigantic projects that were, unfathomable at the time because that's not what was even the idea. And it was just supposed to accompany the community piece that were still there, the programming piece. Now, what's transpired over the last 3 years is that the library was brought into the conversation. And because the library was brought into the conversation, it still changes a little bit of the dialogue for council, because before it was like, hey, we're not subsidizing and this needs to make money. And now that the library is incorporated, we have to say, okay, the library doesn't make money, so if it's part of this, how does that play into the overall financial scenario and how does it play out? But the benefit here is that the Parks, Rec, and Tourism team have very similar programming that the library has. And so having a shared space allows us to share more programming area and be a little bit of a more efficient government in one area and that people can come to. And we have this connection hub that connects us to the Arts and Entertainment District, that connects us to 146. We have a baseball field that's right down the street that's incorporated into this. We have Bicentennial that's incorporated into this. We have the Lee College Arena. We have the Lee College Performing Arts Center. We have a proposed disc golf course at the corner of Lefevre and Market Street. All of this was considered. The hike and bike trail that goes on the back end of this, all the way from the Hyatt up to hopefully at the end of this, the San Jacinto Marketplace. And so all of this played into something that was deliberate by the council to give the amenities that the citizens have been asking for. With that, Mayor and Council, that's all I have.
Go ahead.
Like I said, I want to thank everybody that kind of came to this. I came on, and my first executive meeting was in January 2024, and just what I can say, and I can't say there's some things, but I can say this much. I was amazed that a local professional football franchise was talking about putting this on I-10 with us. They have announced this week that they're going forward with this youth event on 6/10. They did announce that on 6/10 a.m. So you can kind of put two and two together, but I can't say the name of the team. That would have been a game changer for the city and for the work that y'all got in to get them here and talking about that. I remember the first council, everybody was all in my mouth like, what? Are we all? No way. that would have been a game changer. They couldn't come to an agreement with that property value. At the same time, during this, we were working with a private developer at no cost to the city to bring a major hospital here. They couldn't come to an agreement on that property. That property is being handcuffed for the future of the city, and it's nothing we can do about it at this moment. We would love to take that property.
Privately owned land.
Privately owned land, and they have every right to do what they want with that land. But those two things would have changed this city. The hospital was talking about a 7-story ambulatory unit to compete with Methodist, and they couldn't come to a land agreement, and we know that they're now moving down the road. We did everything we could to try to get them there to help with this project. And it is, I get that the citizens, that's where it looks the most feasible and best. But sometimes we're handicapped and can't do some of these things. And trust me, I love that you try to take Julia Roberts out on a date and you shot your shot and you didn't get it, right? I get it. But we were in the final 3. The final 3 to get that. They're down to the final 2. That's amazing on your staff to put that together and work that in there, because that would have been a game changer for the city if either one of those projects would have been able to come forward. So I know it's a lot to it, and I'm glad that we're getting a $5 billion investment in the city, because I'm seeing it happen other places, and those agreements are what keeps development going and keeps jobs in cities and keeps them growing. So.
Any other questions, Mayor and Council? Show the rest of the agenda item.
Yeah, I think we're ready for Brent now.
Chose the wrong one. Shit. No, I can close it out. Nobody can hear me. I'm sitting here cussing.
Let's let him go ahead and go, then we'll get you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention to council that they talked about the strategic plan, and they were supposed to, the group of citizens that were on the strategic plan, they were supposed to meet yearly. And I've had a couple of them reach out, especially once this got made public at one of our meetings back in October. And I think it's important that they begin meeting again. I mean, that's part of that continuation of that citizen input.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, members of the public here. Going to provide some information as both an update and kind of a lead-in to the consideration of the design services contract. A lot of what you'll see is going to be repetitive, and I'll touch on that here a little bit, and also go above and beyond on a few things here. Since our last conversation, obviously we completed the RFQ process for the design services and prepared the proposed contract. We have continued our efforts to prepare for the planning and design phases, and we've continued to look at operations, how they would be affected, or what needed to be considered, both in the near term and the long term, relative to the project and the steps that would need to be taken. Coming up, it's over the next 6 months, we'll be in that pre-design and schematic design phases that overlaps with the visioning that we've discussed, as well as stakeholder engagement for the internal organization, the external stakeholders that we've identified, and the public in general. And obviously we'll be providing updates as we continue with those with those tasks. And City Manager earlier mentioned that a lot of times we were kind of in a lull here and there on some things. Well, if council does approve this contract this evening, obviously things are going to start to ramp up considerably. This is where a lot of the things first start to happen, is in the design phase. You've seen this probably 4 or 5 times now, And these are the main concepts that that the project is really kind of leaning on. It's the development of the indoor courts for those tournaments and the sports tourism piece. The incorporation of the existing library into the project, as well as the use of some of that recreational space to support community programming and daily recreational use. We've also talked about kind of what initially do we think we're looking at, and what would we try to look at incorporating. And so you'll see the base amenities there on the left, and then the potential additional amenities there on the right. Obviously, we need the courts, we need the locker rooms, the training rooms, the tournament and administrative offices, all of the amenities for the public. And on the right, it'd be nice for us to have additional courts, more meeting rooms, kitchen area, indoor playground, and a few other areas that could be used for both the sports tourism piece as well as that local recreation aspect. And so we've also talked about these kind of strategic concepts. Baytown as a youth sports destination through this facility and through the marketing of some of our other facilities as well. We know that community and stakeholder engagement is going to be a key part of this process. The design itself cannot happen without getting answers on what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and that involves all of the stakeholders that we've talked about. We do want to promote that tourism aspect, not necessarily people taking a vacation, but people coming from outside to have their children, maybe even some of the young adults, participate in tournaments, participate in some events that would draw people to the area, looking at how to capitalize on the facility with some educational opportunities and recreational opportunities that would benefit both the visitors to the center as well as our residents. Looking to provide an overall quality of life enhancement and an asset that the community can utilize long term. Now, we've talked about these last two items a couple times previously, the idea of self-funded operations. Self-funded operations is basically the direction that you all have given, that you do not want to subsidize this facility on a long-term basis. We do not want to have operational deficiencies. That's why we've talked about looking at limiting our construction budget, generating interest income, making sure that we have an operational model that can keep us out of the red. And so when we look at those two things, that's great to say, but how are we going to do it? And so as we've been kind of doing our research and going through this process, with the Design Services RFQ, we want to emulate a private sector approach that has been very successful. We want to look at the idea of providing a public benefit with private involvement. And when you look at that first item, public-private operational partnerships, what we're talking about is really having multiple service providers that operate out of this facility, that utilize this facility. So if we have an event canceled, and that's the only thing that we're dependent upon for revenue, then yeah, that's going to hurt. But if we have multiple streams of revenue, where we have places that are being utilized by an outside company, whether it be for personal training, sports merchandise, lessons, things along those lines, having multiple revenue streams that kind of help to support the venue and our overall sports tourism efforts, that's going to be key to our success. And there are people out there that do it in the private sector that make money. And that's one of the things that we were looking for when we were trying to identify the best design firm and the best team to help us move forward with this. The idea being is that we're going to target those service providers that are going to be complementary to what's going on at the facility and in the community. And hopefully the profitability that comes with that, that's going to help us to reinvest in not only that facility, but in other areas as well. And our goal is that this facility and our overall efforts do become an economic driver for local businesses. And in looking at this facility and the idea of tournaments and events, it is going to be a destination specific to those things. And so I'm going to pause at this point. I'll be happy to take any questions on kind of the recap, and then I'll turn it over. But I'll pause for now if there are any questions.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, appreciate it. Brent, good presentation. One of the comments that I've heard recently, and even in this discussion, we keep stressing the recreational, the sports activities, and we kind of brush over the entertainment side. Can you elaborate a little bit or the vision that, because again,
sure,
my concept is, yeah, we're looking at a youth sports type facility, but also a multimedia entertainment operation as well. But we kind of gloss over that side of it and keep stressing the sports and the recreation side. In my belief, we haven't just discussed building a real big recreation center. It's much more than that. So we're kind of glossing over a very important part for our community that's the entertainment issues. Can you kind of elaborate on
Sure.
that?
Absolutely. And that's really relevant to where we are right now in the process. You know, when we talk about this project, we don't say recreation center. We say event center for a couple reasons. Number one, it's not simply going to be focused on recreational type activities. It's going to be focused on events. Events include whether it be some sort of local music performance, local maybe drama club performances, things along those lines, that we can get people to utilize this facility in as many different ways as possible. And that's a key part of the design, because if we have a space that can accommodate 4 or 5 different things, we're going to try to do 4 or 5 different things there. If we can only do a basketball tournament, we're really limiting ourselves. So that's why at this point, getting that input, understanding exactly what we want to design for and what we want to have the capabilities for is really important. So yes, that point is not lost on me or any member of the team. The idea, if we're looking at the championship court area, for example, does it always have to be basketball or volleyball? No. If there's enough seating, it can host events. And we've seen that at a lot of the other facilities that we visited as well.
But that comes from the stakeholder engagement as well on things they would like, and then we have to see if there's any financial feasibility to host those types of events, and then council has to decide on the programming that goes with that stuff for the ultimate design of the facility.
Yeah, we're going to want to market to the fullest extent. If the building and the facility and our service providers are capable of doing it, we want to try to bring it to Baytown and hopefully provide options for the area, but also to increase that revenue.
And I appreciate that, and I know that's the discussion. I'm sorry, Mayor. That's the discussions we've had. We just need to articulate that at every opportunity, because I think we get shifted and focused on the youth sports or the sports aspect, and the other part kind of just gets lost in the conversation. Even though there's an intent to cover that, we need to make sure that that is explicit, that we're trying to do a multimedia type operation to cover as many bases as we can with the space that's allowed. I just want to make sure we keep stressing that as well.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you saying it.
Yeah, thanks, Brent.
So when it comes down to entertainment, 2 things. Can we go back to the picture of the whole venue?
I don't think I had that in my presentation. You talking about that layout that Jason had?
We can't.
You want me to pull that back up?
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. I can do that.
Okay.
Use the computer with.
The buildings. That's it. So, 2 parts to my question. Piggybacking off of what Mike said about entertainment, and we say local, are we talking just bringing in local entertainment, or how are we defining local? And
well, if I'm remembering what I said when I said it, local meaning it's an option for the local community.
Gotcha.
Not necessarily only local entertainers or local teams or whatnot, but if we wanted to host the Harlem Globetrotters in here, that's an option. The idea is that this will be a destination for the events, but the idea that it's going to benefit the local community and the area, but I don't think we'll limit ourselves to any particular service provider.
Well, I just wanted that to be defined on record so that individuals won't misconstrue what was said. On the second part of my question, incorporates existing library. Are we saying that this is what it's going to look like, or this is just giving an example so people can have picture what could happen in the area?
This is one option that the library itself would be incorporated into the overall footprint. I think that's just my opinion. That's probably the cleanest way to approach it. It's all one footprint within the building. There's the championship court, the recreation spaces, the library, community destination all in one. It may end up being that the library remains a separate building, but is still connected to or adjacent to some other things. But in just me speaking personally, without us going through design, obviously, I like that concept.
I just so happened to be at the library last night to do some copies, and people were asking about the library. The people that were there were genuinely concerned what's going to happen with our library. They take ownership of it. We have this. It was voted the second best library in the nation back in 2020. 2020, right? That's right. And people they were worried that we were going to get rid of it, that it would be gone. So if they tune in to the meeting, tune in and watch this, they'll know it's not just going to be there. It may be improved, but this is an opportunity to improve something that's already great here. Yeah. So thank you for that. Yes, sir.
Ladies first.
Go ahead.
One of the other things that we've always looked at is to ensure that there is access to the local community for different things to do. So it's not going to be just for those coming out of town and those having events. And so, the others that we visited, it has components for the locals to also enjoy, whether it's indoors or the outdoor amenities. And so that's something that we said we definitely wanted to keep. And that's where a lot of that community engagement will come in, is like, how would you like, some of our amenities to be incorporated? What would you like to do every day? And some of those that have talked to me about it talked about, we miss the indoor walking when we lost the mall. Here we could have, indoor walking at
That's
the
something that
facility.
Cliff and I were just talking about earlier today, actually.
Yeah, and I know Lee College has that as well. People can go now to Lee College and walk around there, but this will just be a separate amenity that they can utilize. But since you brought up the library, and I know there's a lot of heart tied to the library. I'm one of those as well, and we have a situation now that are we going to put in 75,000 or possibly more to fix the existing issues at the library and then tear it down? It doesn't make sense. And so that's why we're really trying to move forward with redoing the library, and that might even come sooner than the rest. That's my speculation, but only because of the situation we are in right now with the library.
In this instance, the third from the bottom, profitability drives other community activities. If we're successful in bringing events and bringing people here, and there is a revenue stream there that allows us to do more things that we don't necessarily have to make a profit for, so to speak. And the whole idea, if we have a facility that has additional resources with it, the library is one potential user of those resources. And so I think the goal is exactly what a few of you have said. We're going to enhance the overall experience, but we're going to try to do it in such a way that no subsidy, and that there's I won't say a balance, but that there is a definite place for local recreation mixed in, and then the library.
And entertainment. Yes, sir.
So, kind of going back to, like you said about it, how we're looking at what we've done, and kudos to Jason for bringing the idea, is that he talked about not, when we look at the design, not using all the money for just this project, but using a portion of it and leaving a portion to help with the cost to maintain it and other things that we've talked about, trying to keep it on that $55 to $60 million range, which I appreciate that input that we had in that part. So that's the other part. I don't know if you were going to discuss that or not, kind of where we're looking. But
regarding the interest income and the balance of the 75? Yeah. And the idea is that, we're starting with that assumption right now, depending on how soon we can ramp up with the activity and with the revenue, that may be overkill. But we're going to plan for, that revenue stream being there for at least the first few years, see where we are and go from there.
Anything else?
So if there are no,
he was asking for questions on this so far.
Anything else?
Yeah.
So if there are no other questions at this time, I'd like to do a couple things. I want to introduce Mr. Gary Krause from Graham Associates. He's been working with us along with the rest of the owner's rep team on the RFQ process for design services. Also on the line, we do have representatives from BRS. Are they able to, Mr. Kevin Armstrong and Miss Melissa Ford? And so I know they'll be available to answer any questions, make any comments. But at this point, I'll turn it over.
I have one question.
Sure.
Before you turn it over, how much money was spent, if any, for land acquisition for this site?
There were 3 parcels purchased, and I want to say that was about $4 million.
So we have,
Okay. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Mr. Krause, and he'll walk through the RFQ process and introduce the selected firm. Just use the arrows.
All right. Thank you very much. Again, my name is Gary Krause with Graham Associates. I would like to start by thanking the council for allowing Graham to be involved with this process. It's an exciting project, and we look forward to carrying it through, so thank you very much. The RFQ process, let's step back to when it started, basically started a long time ago. But in August, an RFQ was sent out. We had actually 70 firms respond to the RFQ and show up for the pre-proposal or pre-SOQ meeting. Actually, some of those firms wouldn't be primes, they would be subs, so we didn't expect to have 70 submittals out of that. But we did get 9. Got 9 submittals in October, and that's a good number. That's a good number because it gives you a good broad range of people. You know you've got good interest in the project. We went through an evaluation process between Graham and the city, and came up with 3 firms that we brought in for interviews here in October, and that interview process again included ourselves and city staff, 12-person evaluation group. And then we ended up with one firm, and that was BRS. And I'll kind of go into them and why we selected them. But and then since then, of course, they've been in the process of putting together their proposal, and that's what we're talking about tonight. All right, so who's BRS? They are a leader in community sports and recreation. You can see by some of the numbers on this slide, they've been in business for over 50 years. They've done over 350 projects. The next one's interesting. 90% of their work is in the sports recreation, community design. That is their main line of business. And they're also involved with the whole sports and recreation industry, if we would call it that. So they're not just an architectural firm. This is the project team that they've proposed. You can see at the top of it, of course, is BRS, Barker, Rinker, and Circuit. And then below them are the subs that we'd expect to see involved with a large architecturally driven project such as this, MEP, structural, etc. Two of them I'd like to point out particularly is LT Sports, the sports consulting group, and that's kind of along the lines of the sports venue and having the right input during the design process for that to be implemented. And then, of course, the library consulting group, Margaret Sullivan, because the library is an integral part of what we're doing. Well, on a more personal level, here are the people. Kevin, Melissa, and Mick, the three on the left, those are BRS folks. And then Larry Off is the sports consulting group, LT Sports, and then Margaret Sullivan is the library consultant. This is an interesting slide in that it shows three facilities that they have done. Two of them are completed, one's under construction now. Two of them are in Texas. The interesting part of this is that these projects are about the same size in terms of cost, etc., as we're talking about here. So it gives us an idea of a project that they've done that have been successful along those lines. This is just give you an idea of what their overall commitment is to community sports. They're involved beyond just the architectural design part in organizations, conferences, research into this whole market. So they don't just design it and walk away, essentially. And then this is an interesting slide. There are 18 centers that they have done where they are working with the owners, operators of those centers to get information back to them so that they can evaluate the performance of those. Interesting way to look at the whole market. Okay, so that's who they are. So then what are they going to do? Okay, so here are the design services that we anticipate, or the overall work services, starting, and we'll go through the timetable in a minute, but starting with pre-design, project visioning, again, making sure that we're on the right track as far as what we're doing on the project. And then, of course, secondly, stakeholder involvement, engagement. The design phase itself, which is fairly typical of a large architecturally designed project. Schematic design, which is your kind of approach. Do we want the thing to look like this, or do we want it to look like this? And then the schematic design is getting into the details of that. What materials are we using? What forms are we going to use? That type of thing. And then finally, the construction documents is the actual set of construction drawing, detail, and specifications. The fourth item there under the design phase, which is cost estimating, is something they will do at each stage. So at the schematic, at the design, you're looking at the cost to make sure, are we still in line with where we need to be as far as the cost is concerned. Then the construction phase of it is, this is construction management at risk. And about the area of the construction documents is when you bring that party into the play, and this helps guarantee your final price. And they would be involved in helping make that selection from that design. And then, of course, the other thing that the BRS would do is to make site visits during the construction and to assure that the construction is according to design. So. This will give you an idea of just the whole stakeholder engagement thing that Brant was discussing. Some of the components, the different parties that are involved in it, and when I say components, the different things that can occur, from social media and surveys to neighborhood meetings and project meetings. So finally, that's who they are, what they're going to do, how long is it going to take. Okay. This is kind of a little simplified diagram of the project schedule. You can see we're now in January 26th, and the green phase of this is the one that's going to occur over the next 6 months, which is a combination of that pre-design effort with the stakeholder engagement and then the schematic design itself. Then the blue is kind of the next 3 months or so, which is the design development, the details of the project, and then finally the construction documents in that orange circle there later in 2026 to do the actual construction documents. And then once we get to, so that brings us a year from now, January 27, at the point of getting ready to go to construction. The first part would be, of course, the procuring, that bidding part of it, and then the construction itself. At this point, we're estimating about 20 months, so the project finishes up in December of 28. So
good deal.
That's the process of how we got to where we are today. So any questions? Be glad to address them.
Council, in addition to, I mentioned we do have the two representatives from BRS on the line. If you have any questions for them as well.
Before we do that, we've got people that signed up to speak. I want to give them an opportunity to come give their comments also. But do we have anything for?
I have a question. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, you're welcome.
As far as your 350 projects, and the 90%, of course, being these type of projects, how often is it that y'all move forward with design without any type of feasibility study?
I guess that's
common?
a question.
Yeah, this is Kevin Armstrong with BRS. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Thanks,
Okay.
Did y'all get my
Thank you.
question?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and I think there's a good number of projects that move forward that have a good path set for them, and that you do validation of that program and what the potential functions might be in the center in the early part of this project, or in the early part of those projects. This is a good example of that, where we would be able to, very early on in this process, do the community engagement side of it, do listening sessions, and help map out what the project can take shape and what form it will be, along with kind of the programming goals that have been set forth from the community already. The project in Bridgeport, West Virginia is an example of that, or the project in Greenville, Texas that Brant had up on screen. The one in Greenville is a fantastic example. It's very similar to this project, where we were given an initial program statement, and then we did early involvement in terms of how do all the pieces come together to make a cohesive facility that then helps to meet those goals. And then we went back to the community and ultimately got support from that through that process. So that's what we're going to be mapping out, and we're going to be working on in the very first part of this project after this council meeting. Should we move forward with the project and be successful coming out of this, that we're going to be doing those goals and how we're going to create that, and then that's going to be the formation of how we move forward. Does that help to answer the question?
Somewhat. Did Greenville have a feasibility study to give y'all before you entered in design?
No, they did not. So with Greenville, they had programming goals that they mapped out for the project. They knew they wanted to have a large court sport facility that could have 6 full-size basketball courts as part of the project, as well as an aquatics component, and then a recreation fitness space, and then a tenant health wellness partner space. So they had those listed as goals for the facility. And then what we were able to do is help take that and synthesize that and bring it together, and then be able to go back to the public to share this is from these initial goals what we're looking to create within the budget that they had allocated for that project. And from that, we did listening sessions to make sure that that was being successful in terms of what the public's input would be from it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. What my comment was going to be is that I know we originally anticipated 2029 for completion, so it's kind of good to see the 2028. So is that like construction administration, you know, actual groundbreaking, everything will be done by December of 2028? Or is it just?
I think at this point in time, that's the best guess.
the
I mean,
goal.
the December 28 isn't too far from 29, but
Right.
Yeah, Gary, I would add to that really quickly as well,
Sure.
is that's kind of everything moves smoothly forward and everything kind of follows in lockstep throughout the process. Additionally, that's potentially when construction can be completed, but then there's still move-in periods and things like that of getting the facility properly set up for then that opening to the public.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. We're going to open it up for citizens to comment now. Ms. June Stansky.
I need to play the walk-up music she wanted me to play.
Please state your address.
You know it. Gene Stansky, 4601 Driftwood Drive, Baytown, Texas. My office is across the street from this proposal. Not looking forward to it. Everybody knows that this end of town is depressed. We have a high unhoused population. We lost a food town right around the corner from my office. There are several businesses that are closed down on Polly Street, Lobet, and Decker. And this is just not a great part of town to put in a major complex. I drive Decker Drive every day, and it is full of cracks and potholes that have constantly having to be fixed. If you go out the other direction down Texas Avenue, you have a 2-lane bridge, no shoulders, that would have to be expanded if you're going to hold an event coming or going out Texas Avenue. So you're looking at major road reconstruction to have this kind of project, whether you're coming in Texas or you're going down Decker. So even though you may have to put dirt along I-10 to get a project where the hotels are, I mean, mind you, there are not viable hotels in this neighborhood. If you want your occupancy taxes to help pay for this government, when Exxon isn't paying their $75 million in taxes, you're going to lose all your occupancy taxes, probably to LaPorte, because that'll be closer and more convenient and lesser priced hotels than the ones we actually have here in Baytown, which are on I-10. This project deserves to be on I-10. We lost out to a professional team because we didn't put it on I-10. This is just a bad decision. We should not be spending $5 million for this company to give us a plan for the bad location. It's a terrible location. And if I have any extra minutes, oh, and there was no feasibility study. I wonder why? Because it's not feasible. Can I give my last minute to Brandon Terry?
Yes.
Okay.
Next, we have Desiree Claus. Please state your address.
9026 Blue Star Lane. I'm coming today as a Baytonian and a mom and a small business owner who's spent the last 6 years actually venturing outside of Baytown to get services that are related to growing my small business. So when I first heard about the MBAC, my first thought was, is it going to innovate Baytown? So there's a lot of information that came from Mr. Reynolds today, and I appreciate it. So really my biggest concern really isn't the money or the location or any of those things. It's the concept. An innovation hub in Baytown could help bring down some of the struggles that Baytown's having. For those that don't know, Baytown is one of the top 10 cities in that has the highest unemployment rate in the state of Texas. As a small business owner, I believe that more of an innovation hub would help small businesses, creatives, and bring an innovative maker space for the small business community. We are also in need of meeting rooms and opportunities to build an innovative tech community, possibly while partnering with ExxonMobil would make sense. Some of the venues that I've gotten to be at in Houston while growing my small business, such as the Ion in Houston is a great example, also the Cannon, and also the Texas Medical Center Helix Park, and many other venues in Houston. All are amazing innovation hubs that reside mostly in the Houston metro area. I will continue to see how this event space unfolds, but so far what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, it's missing the mark. The description also alone seems a little vague regarding the regional hub of youth sports tourism and entertainment versus an innovation hub that fosters collaboration between entrepreneurs, academics, and corporations featuring workspaces, labs, event spaces, and so on. So I will ask you this. Will this space innovate Baytown or will it stagnate Baytown? Thank you.
Thank you. Joseph Fallon.
Good afternoon. My address is 170 North Burnett. So, I mean, I think there's a small disconnect between the council and the citizens because $75 million is preposterous. How many citizens were upset at like the 10 or 12 million for the hotel? And now we're going to turn around and do the exact same thing, but in a bigger league. I don't think that for y'all to be liked, y'all don't need to do anything groundbreaking or new or super cutting edge. Like, we just want the basics. I want the water to be turned on when I turn on my sink. I want water to be there. I want the roads to be good enough to drive to work. And I want there to be funding for the police so we're safe. But, like, all this extra stuff, and I almost want to call it like a vanity project. We don't want it. We don't need it. I mean, I feel like there's so many better ways we can spend the money. And, you know, Jason said that the north side is growing organically. There's a reason why. It's because it's on I-10. So even if we put something down there and our event center is doing amazing, everything else around there is not going to change. The traffic, the roads, the closeness to I-10, it's just, I don't think that we need to be putting our feet in the privatization. If there was a want or need for it, a private business would already come in here and be making money. And especially after all the citizens' outrage over the hotel and the golf course, I don't know why we keep doing the same thing and the same thing and the same thing. Like I said, we don't need y'all to do anything cutting edge for us to like you. I just want low taxes, which y'all did vote for no new revenue. I want water to be there when I turn on my sink. I want the roads to be good, and I want a good police force. That's it. Like, y'all don't have to do anything else. Like, the bar is kind of low. Like, that's really all we want. So, I mean, I know there has to be some way to wiggle out of this or put the money in a better spot. Because $75 million, like, I don't think a lot of people can grasp how much that is. That's not a house. That's not a car. These are amounts of money that most people don't deal with, and I think we need to think a little bit harder before we just blow it on a cool soccer field or basketball field. I love sports, but I don't know, 75 million in a part of town that is already admittedly not growing organically just seems like a bad investment whenever the citizens have already spoken. We don't want these projects. We just want the basics. So thank you for your time. I really hope that y'all consider these things that I've said.
Thank you. Next, we have, well, I got a question on him. Donnie Gregory. Got a question. It's for the city clerk. Let me do what I do.
Taking them out of order.
Donnie Gregory? Okay. Did he sign up for this? Or did he sign up to me or 8B? Okay. Mr. Terry, did you sign up for 8B or 2B? So my question is, did you sign up before the council meeting started? And you signed up for 8B is what it's showing. And you're saying after the council meeting started, you saw we were going to talk about 2B? Okay, well, our rules say he's not able to sign up after the council meeting starts to talk about something. So that's why, you know. But he still didn't sign up. He didn't sign up for 2B. Yeah.
Can we make a motion to suspend it to allow him to speak?
I don't think we shouldn't be suspending something to allow somebody to speak. The rules are the rules. Mm-hmm. But even though it was moved, if it's an agenda item and you signed up to speak on it, you can speak on it. I mean, if I'm looking at the agenda. Okay, hold on. Okay, so when we get to 8B, you can speak on 8B. You can only speak about what that's going to be concerning, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. Let me see here. And this person was taken off. This person's taken off. Yeah. Okay, good deal. All right. Well, that's everyone that signed up to speak on 2B. We have any more comments, questions, or concerns?
I do want to make a comment only because Mr. Gregory is still here. I think he's still here.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, and he talked about the baseball. And so we did intend to do some baseball fields and grow our presence when it comes to baseball. That was one of our bond items.
Yes, it was.
So we hope to address that at a later time as well. Am I correct? So we do recognize the need to have some better fields, better competitive fields. I know the mayor encountered that with some teams that wanted to come, and we just couldn't turn around a field to do a champion junior league because it was too much work, and we didn't have the capacity. And so we recognized it then. We recognize it now, and so we hope to revisit that with the Gina Loretta Russell Park movement further.
Sarah?
Yes, and I just, speaking my closing comment about the item we were just talking about, it's going to be similar to something I said previously. There's always going to be a group of people that say we're not asking for this, and then there's a group of people that say we are asking for this. And Mr. Reynolds held up a book earlier, the strategic plan. He held up the thinner, I think it was a parks, the rec center. I know that we've had several citizens, I'm thinking of a few of them right now, that sit on that strategic team that hopefully start to meet again. there are people that want this. There was very long discussions and public input. So I'll just close with that. There's people that do want it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to address Mr. Reynolds' presentation, and thank you for the presentation. You know, I think there's a sentiment sometimes if somebody disagrees with something, you're being negative. That's not the case I've gotten working with these constituents. I've lived here for 43 years. There are people here that care about Baytown. And, you know, somebody who's disagreeing with something doesn't necessarily mean that they're negatives. It means they have concerns. If somebody was jumping out of the plane with a parachute, without a parachute, would it be negative to tell them that they can't jump out the plane because they don't have a parachute on? No. It's taking the necessary, make sure they're taking the necessary steps to protect themselves. I feel this is rushed. I think I know we had an initial study back in 2018, but a lot has happened in our city and in the country since 2018. It's a different populace. It's a different culture. It's a different. We had COVID. We had economic ups and downs, and there hasn't been a lot of engagement, to Sarah's point, to address whether to see if we even want to go forward with this from the public. That coupled with there's no feasibility study. We're about to invest another $5 million without a feasibility study on a project that we're just guessing to see if it's feasible. You know, that's jumping out of a plane without a chute. I really would hope that we take a step back with what we've heard over the last few years. We've heard testimony after testimony, people having questions about the location, the money, where it's coming from. Do we want this over the last year? To say, hey, let's take a step back with our bond. We only 40% of our bond passed, 60% failure. There's a lot we need to step back and say, do we want to do this with that $75 million? I am grateful for our IDAs. Our IDAs make Baytown a bearable place to live without the influx of high taxes. I'm grateful for Exxon, what it's done for my family and for my friends in this town. I'm just not getting a consensus of this is what the citizens are asking for. And I think with the way the bond shaped out, that we need to step back and really look, think of innovative ways of what we could do with this $75 million other than this center. Now, there is a clause in the contract. We're not talking about a contract renegotiating agreement with Exxon. There's a clause that allows us to use that building on another facility. I know Jason said Exxon came to us with they wanted to do a science center. There was a science center on the bond, a wetland center that failed because the citizens didn't want to go to debt on that. Maybe we could look into doing that. Maybe we could go to Exxon and ask them. I have it on good authority that, they may not mind what we use that money on. But these questions, I feel we need to answer before we move forward with any type of design or any more steps to develop this project where it's at. I want to ask, I'm going to put a motion out there right now to table this agreement for now with Baker Rinker CCAT Architectural PC when at such time we get more community engagement, we need to get a feasibility study to see if this will work at this location, how many seats would it be needed to be profitable, what components will need to be profitable. I want to see us go, as a council, go to resolution to ask Exxon, can we use that $75 million to something else for services that we're needing right now? We're having a crumbling infrastructure. We're talking about building fire stations. To really step back and see, what we could do with $75 million. I know Ms. Alvarado said, yeah, we're getting $20 million in our general fund that goes from Exxon's last IDA. What about the future? What does that $75 million look like in the future? What kind of hole is that going to punch in our budget in the future? These are questions that need to be answered. So I want to make a motion. We table this until such time, some of these things have happened. We went to Exxon to see if we could use some money on something different, and we get more community input, and we get a feasibility study. So that's the motion I'm putting out. Point of order, I made a motion.
You did. I need a second. The last time, 3 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
I need a second. Dies on the vine.
Y'all own it.
Let's go with Council Member District 4, and then we'll come back to
We want to, and I appreciate your comments, Councilmember, and I also appreciate City Manager and staff. And I'm going to read a letter from October 8th, 2024 that was sent to all of council. This is from Exxon. Regarding the Chapter 212 agreement between ExxonMobil and the City of Baytown, ExxonMobil is satisfied with the intent of the $75 million upfront payment and the vision of the City Management Council to build a multi-purpose event venue with ExxonMobil naming rights. This upfront payments are not intended for general use funds. We already asked that question. I asked that question when we were at the Tech Capitol with the gentleman for Exxon.
I asked that same question. He doesn't recall.
Well, it's my time. We have a letter that you got, I got, and everybody.
I have a letter right here. Where does it say? Where does it say they would be willing to talk about using the money for?
It says that they are.
It doesn't say that here.
These upfront payments are not intended for general use funds, and that they are content. I really just read it, sir.
Yeah, it doesn't say.
Is satisfied with the intent. That is what it says. We all know that in a negotiation, the first person to go to negotiation will lose. This is a $5 billion investment into the city of Baytown. That is a lot of money, and that is a lot of jobs. Okay? And I understand. Trust me, I get it. I get where we're coming from. And we have to also look at the cost. We're talking about $55 million to $60 million is what we want to spend on that. Right now, $55 million. Every month, it costs us $200,000 more with inflation at 4%. The Federal Reserve right now has the interest rate around 6 3/4. Construction does not happen at 6 1/4. It happens at 5% below. There will be a new chair of Federal Reserve this year. We all know that. And the intent is to lower the interest rate. And when the interest rate lowers, construction will begin. There will be more investment. And when more investment comes, it's supply and demand. We just saw, Brant, is the new fire station under budget? By how much?
There we go. We have received bids that we do believe that the construction costs will be within the established budget.
Okay. We just bid Garth Road. It was how much under budget? 10 million? The Garth Road, the 46 million was, I believe, 10 million under budget. Weber, who only does freeways, bid on a City of Baytown project. There's companies out there that are not doing construction right now, supply and demand, and I get it. I completely understand. But when we looked at, we've had 7 years of this part, and I understand the feasibility. But they just told you that they are going to be doing the feasibility. This $5 million isn't a guaranteed $5 million. This is draws. Okay? This is not, we're giving them $5 million today. We were giving them in draws. They're probably going to pull initial 500,000 for the initial startup of all this. But this is from the start to end 5 million. They are going to be doing the studies. They're going to be, this is all what's going to start happening. This is where the community engagement begins. Okay. And I get it. And I talked to multiple people. I even talked to people in everybody's district pretty much today. And I talked to someone that was against it. And when I told them what we had to do and I outlined it, I'm completely transparent. And what they said, they're like, you're kind of stuck into it. And I get $5 billion. That is a lot to risk. Because let's be realistic, that project got canceled because of when they cut the funds for hydrogen because of market. They're now restructuring it because they lost a $4 billion grant from the federal. We know it just happened last week. There's going to be investments coming back into Exxon that they're going to build. They're already talking about it. It's coming. And I'm not going to risk that's a potential 2,000 to 4,000 jobs. If you want to risk 2,000 to 4,000 jobs for these people, I'm still talking. If you want to risk the 2,000 to 4,000 jobs, that's on you.
Who's next?
Jason wanted to make a comment.
Yeah, I just have a comment before we get too far into the piece. The council in 2025 or 24, when we bought the properties, when the city bought the properties adjacent to Vector or MVEC, the council unanimously voted on that, knowing that it was part of MVEC. And per the contract, because it's part of MVEC, the money can only be spent on one location project. So if the council does open up negotiations of the contract, you would have to pay $5 million out of the general fund to pay that back to Project Vector's funding mechanism. So there's just a nuance as part of the discussion, so you understand.
Thank you. She's next.
Okay. So, thank you, Councilmember Franco and Jason, because I was actually going to make some of the same comments, and I appreciate. I see that you have passion to ensure that we have the best solution for everyone. We've been at this for quite a while in terms of doing the due diligence and all of that. And I know the hotel and golf course keeps being brought up. We're done with that. We're done with that. We need to figure out a path forward. The ideas that were brought forth by Ms. Klaus, she mentioned those before, and I talked to Jason about that. I like those ideas. We did have an innovation center here before, and it flopped. We're now redoing the Brenson Center to have more of a multimedia option for our constituents. Could that run off into the event center or MBAC? Absolutely, probably the way multimedia works now. We can satellite in from the Brunson over to the MBAC and vice versa. So the options are very unlimited when it comes to design, and that's why stakeholder feedback is very critical. You heard the gentleman say that they didn't do a feasibility study. So for me, that's out the window in terms of the reasoning of not moving forward, because they didn't utilize a feasibility study, and they're open. And I'd be curious to see what some of their revenues have been, because some of the centers that we went to, they had to hold off on so many things because they were booked year round, including the one that we went to over in, I think it was Humble, and we went to that one, and they could not move enough faster. They had to hire additional people because there were so many people wanting to book. Could that happen here? I don't know, and that's what the stakeholder feedback is going to look like, to ensure that we capture our residents' feedback to see what they want to have within the facility. I agree. We have to make sure that we make it to where we're not just focusing on sports. And so for me, I'm glad that you got it from very good authority, because we've yet to hear any of that. And the same thing happened when we were going through the transportation that you had a list that none of us had, but you had an opportunity to go before today's meeting, and maybe you did already, I'm not sure. You probably did, because we all have an opportunity to talk to Jason beforehand, show and give him all of our information, give him all the data. We never got that data from you in terms of what you got regarding transportation. We haven't heard from you yet about your resource that told you we could renegotiate with Exxon. The conversations that I've had, not just from the letter, but just 2 weeks ago, is that they're happy that we're moving forward with this project. Exxon had, it wasn't just the flip of a switch with Mr. Aaron Strike that, yeah, this is what we want. They had to go to all of their board of directors, get them all together, sign off on the agreement multiple times, get their attorneys involved, our attorneys involved, so it wasn't an overnight thing, and they blessed the document, and that was the final. So I would be curious to know who you spoke to that said, yeah, let's go ahead and change the agreement, and without having to go back up the chain again with attorneys and board of directors that live everywhere. So I'd be curious to know who you spoke to that said, yeah, you can redo the terms of the agreement.
Well, I think we're arguing two different things here. I'm not asking to change the terms of agreement. I'm asking to exercise the or clause in the current agreement to use the money on something different. We don't have to reinvent the agreement. It's right here on page 19, Article 6. We could use some money for a multi-purpose sports center or a building, a mutual agreement of parties, a mutual agreement, a community building. It's right here in the contract. Doesn't have to there's an or clause right here. We don't have to redo the contract. We don't have to miss out on the money. It's just an or clause. So you know, it was a former mayor who has ties to ExxonMobil who told me this information, that Exxon would be okay with exercising the or clause of the contract. Okay? So, you know, if that answers your question, if you're fine with that going on, you find it would not exercise an or clause, this is our way to use the money for something different. If you're fine with that, that's fine, but own it. Okay?
So I'm going to say this, and then we're going to go ahead and vote on it. No, we're going to go ahead and vote after I speak. We're going to be, we've talked about this long enough. We've already had a motion. It died on the vine. And as far as someone saying that someone who told you, former mayor or not, that was the case, we have an email here. If this is a former mayor, they know exactly where City Hall is, where the city manager's office is, where legals is, and they can actually go in and have a conversation. Am I right? That's what it is. We had a motion go forth. The motion died on the vine. We're not going to prolong this any longer. We're going to go ahead and vote on it. If it passes, it passes. If it fails, it fails. No.
Just one thing.
No, we're gonna go ahead and vote.
The date of the original contract.
We're gonna go ahead and vote.
Preceding this, that letter came after the date of the original contract.
I need a motion.
Mayor, I'll move that we approve 2B.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. 3A.
We own every decision.
Well, we voted, we're done with it. 3A, receive and discuss a presentation of the proposed second phase of the Bay Creek residential development. Mr. Moran.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and City Council members, we have Mr. Ashley Yoder with Castle Rock Communities, who has a brief presentation on their second phase of Bay Creek, which is located off of North Main across from Goose Creek Memorial High School. With that, Mr. Yoder.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for your time this evening.
Castle Rock Communities, based in Houston, Texas, with a presence in Arizona, Tennessee, and now in Huntsville, Alabama. We're in all the major markets, but we're based here in Houston, Texas. We've built in Baytown for quite some time. The two most recent communities are Goose Creek Landing, and the newest one is Bay Creek. And what I'll be presenting to you today, those are the neighborhoods we were in previously. I'm going to take you through a few pictures here of the current development. When we bought this community, bought the land for this community, y'all had just started doing PIDs, and we set the boundaries for PID number 1. And had we known we were going to be able to buy the Union Pacific property to the north of us, we would have waited and done it all under one PID. So this is for a new PID. This is for PID number 2. So this is some pictures of the existing community. This is our entrance, parks, and trail system. I would note that these pictures were taken last week, and so they're not flowering with spring and summer foliage. The site that you see in the red is the existing development. The site that you see outlined in the green is the proposed PID number 2. Just to the north of that is the Lennar community. This is another outline. What you see shaded out is Bay Creek PID number 1. What you see that's more vibrant is Bay Creek PID number 2. And so PID number 2 will be 59 lots in Section 3 that are 55-foot lots, and Section 4 are 50-foot lots. This is exactly what we did in Bay Creek PID number 1. Focusing on PID number 2, again, 97 50-foot lots, 59 55-foot lots. We're going to continue exactly what you've seen: park, pedestrian, trails, playgrounds, amenity pond, additional landscaping. We're big on connectivity. We have trails going throughout the existing PID number 1. We're going to connect those trails to PID number 2, so there'll be good walking paths going by the detention ponds. Those are wet detention ponds. There'll be fountains there, lots of landscaping. And if you go all the way to the left where you see Section 3, you'll see an orange line going through. That is a long trail going along from west to east, and then of course from north to south along the eastern boundary. What you see here in regards to trees and plantings are exactly what we had in the original development agreement for PID number 1. Lots of different landscaping amenities we're going to put in. We're going to continue the 8-foot sidewalk along North Main that we have now, 6-foot sidewalks on the detention trail, 6-foot sidewalks on the internal trail. This is a aerial, or I guess a drone shot of one of the trails right there that goes along the spine in PID number 1 that we will be continuing in PID number 2. This is an example of the fencing that you're going to see. You're going to have a variety of different fences that will be a continuation of what you see in the current neighborhood. And then we're going to have upgraded fencing that'll be developed along the northern boundary, and you're going to have metal fencing along the lakes so residents can take advantage of the view. Some more examples. Again, more examples of what we've done. 2 different series of houses that we build. These are the existing models. These are our Cobalts that are on our 50-foot lots. And then we have the 60-foot, which is a move-up product. And with that, that is my presentation.
Good deal. Well, I appreciate you all coming in and building under a PID. I do remember when we decided to go to a PUD or a PID and try to move away from MUDs, and I appreciate you all coming in and doing what we asked and not trying to do what we were trying to move away from.
Yes, sir.
So thank you for that. I know Goose Creek Landing is a product that sold quickly. People were very happy, and people are still happy being there, and I can't wait to see how fast this development sells and what the reviews are with the homes.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
I only have one comment, and that's congratulations on working with UP for them to actually give up a piece of their property.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
That is impressive. Anyone else?
Sorry, too soon.
Good deal.
Okay. Thank y'all.
Thank you. 4A, consider a resolution accepting a petition for the establishment of the Bay Creek Public Improvement District Number 2 and setting a public hearing regarding the advisability of the proposed improvements. Mr. Moran.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So the proposed resolution is for the establishment of the Bay Creek Public Improvement District Number 2. This first step, if council decides to approve this petition and its acceptance, it does not establish the PID. However, it does authorize staff to go ahead and begin working on with developer on the development agreement. And then there's also a series of other steps that we need to take, which include the feasibility report, providing notice and publications for public hearings, and then also returning to council for consideration to create the district, and then the service and assessment plan that will be approved. Each of these steps will require council action at that point, so there'll be a series of items in upcoming council meetings that you will have to consider before any assessments on the properties can be levied. As a part of this item tonight for your consideration, staff is recommending the public hearing to be set on the advisability for the public improvements set for February 12th. And just for clarification, PID is Public Improvement District, which is a financing mechanism.
Good deal. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Moran. We're now moving on to consent agenda. If no one's going to pull anything, we're going to go ahead and take A and O together. Yes, sir.
Council, I just want to bring it back that I was advised before the meeting that there's a typo on 5H. This will be a proposed ordinance, not a proposed resolution.
So H is an ordinance. Good deal. Thank you. I need a motion.
Motion to approve items A through O. No exceptions?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we are on to 6, manager's report.
All right.
Now, before we get into that, you did speak, so are we taking time away from your previous presentation?
I'll be very brief, I promise.
Thank you.
All right, Mayor and Council, the City of Baytown Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Department recently earned several awards. Texas Recreation and Park Society TRAPS Maintenance of the Year Award for Solar Lighting Project. 2025 Aquatics Photography Award for the photo titled A Worry-Free Day at Pirates Bay. Certificate of recognition from the HAC Parks and Natural Area Awards received in collaboration with the Emergency Management Team in the on-the-ground project category for the Jenkins Holloway Perfect Trail Improvement Project. And honorable mention recognition from HAC Parks and Natural Area Awards in the programming category for the City of Baytown and GCC ISD's Nature Education Program. So congrats to the departments on these achievements. Please pass that on, Cliff, and thank you to you and your team. I'd also like to congratulate Stephen Bradford from our Public Works and Engineering Department on recently earning his commercial driver's license. So great job, Stephen. Frank, please pass that on to him. Mayor and Council, that is all I have for this manager's report.
Good deal. 7A, Council Member District Report, Mike Lister, District 6.
I'll make it brief as well, Mayor. District, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of technical issues going on with their East District wastewater treatment plant, several phases in process there. Stormwater crews have been out digging out the ditches and flushing drainage pipes in the district. That's easy to see because they leave a trail when they go, which is great. I wish we could get some rain. We desperately need it. And then there was a fun fact that I guess Parks provided about the Tabbs Bay Disc Golf Course, and that I guess the Disc app tracked nearly 500,000 steps during December, which is about 114,000 steps per week. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but if I played disc golf, I'd probably do the 500,000 steps in one day, just chasing my frisbees down. Just not that good with them. So just a general lot going on. I appreciate the effort of Frank and his crew as far as the stormwater stuff. That's near and dear to my district's heart, so I appreciate the efforts. That's it.
I'm going to take some privilege here and talk about our library really quick. Like I said, I stopped in yesterday to make some copies, and the innovation room was full. I mean, it was packed wall to wall. It's like, what is going on in there? They were doing vision boards. Never done a vision board. When I walked in, I didn't know that was going on, and someone made the comment, so tell us without telling us you are not following the library's Facebook page. Yeah, and they about beat me for it. And then they found out I didn't have a library card. Oh, yeah, that was bad business. So I'm here to say it took me 3 minutes to get my library card. I have a photo to prove it. And I just want to say kudos to our library staff for the wonderful job that they're doing, because everyone that was in there say that they reminded me, as if I wasn't here, that we have the best library in Baytown, and that they enjoy the programming going on at our library. They were very kind with me, walking me through the steps of getting my library card. They were gracious enough to explain to me more than once what I needed to do to pay for my copies. And you don't even have to go to the copy machine. Once you pay for it, it magically appears. It's wonderful. I love it. So thank you to the library staff for the wonderful job you all are doing. And
did you donate to fix the toilet while you were there?
I did not.
I'm just kidding there.
But that may be something I consider to stay in their good graces.
I'm just kidding.
I will say that I am committing to following their Facebook page. I'm going to commit to doing what my mother had me doing when I was a young child, going there, renting VHS tapes of Disney movies. I'm going to try to rent something once a month, and I will be bringing it back on time so I don't have to deal with the fine. Now we're going to go
Thanks
on.
for the kind words, Mayor. I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
I know the team does. We have a great team over there.
We're going to go on to 8 executive session, and Mr. Terry, you did sign up to speak, so come on up, please. You have 3 minutes, and please state your address. And thank you for waiting around.
Hain Drive, Baytown, Texas. And I'm addressing the behavior of our city manager and council's lack of action. And I don't know how we can talk about public-private partnerships without the failures of our last two, specifically the golf course. And sitting here at the slideshow tonight gave me a nightmare of the presentation given on the golf course. And our city manager sits up here on a slide, shows the number of rounds being played, and those numbers were cooked like the books of Enron. There's no way. Those were false, 100% false. Then he makes the statement, due to the number of rounds being played, the golf course is sustainable. Complete lie. And y'all made decisions based on that presentation. And then did you hold him accountable? Was he punished? Was anything put in his file? Y'all gave him a raise and an extension. You out of your mind? Then come to find out, our city charter is not being followed. He's gone through 2 contracts, and his address is under question. If you're a proud Baytonian, your address should be crystal clear where you live. That is not the case. Are you going to enforce the rules? Are you going to abide by our city charter? What are you going to do? And again, I'm insulted. I've been here all night, and no one brought up the failures of the hotel and the failure of the golf course. Do you guys realize we are a defendant in a federal case of the golf course developer? What the heck did we promise that developer to end up in federal court? And what's the cost defending it? Who knows what that's going to be? It's not going to be cheap. How did this arena deal? We have issues with the EPA and the TCEQ. How did this arena deal jump that? And back to Joseph Fallen's comments. What about polluting our bayous and our bays? How is that not a priority? That should be addressed before this freaking arena. Come on, guys. We're better than this. And Baytown deserves better. Baytown deserves better. But are we going to hold anybody accountable? And how the heck? This was supposed to be a public discussion, and now it's being moved behind closed doors. Why? Why not the transparency? Why not the accountability? We have fraud all over the place. We hired a con man to develop the golf course. And look where that got us. The hotel, bleeding red ink.
That's it.
And
Mr.
now
Terry,
these developments,
that
we're
is-
going to jump to an arena.
That is your time.
Baytown deserves better.
Thank you. It is 9:06 p.m. We will recess into and convene an executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.074 to discuss personal matters regarding the municipal court judge selection process and/or 551.074 to discuss personal matters regarding the city manager and/or 551.071 and 551.072 and/or 551.087 to seek the advice of the city attorneys regarding pending or contemplated litigation, deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, and/or to deliberate regarding economic development negotiations. 10:24 p.m. and announce that in accordance with Section 551.102 of the Texas Government Code, no action was taken in executive session. Having exhausted everything on this agenda, I now adjourn this meeting at 10:24 p.m. You can go home.